$101,796.97. That's what I made on a deal that took 13 months, 26 text messages, and multiple scares that I was going to lose the deal. So today I'm going to break it down step by step. So now I know a lot of you probably out there thinking, Ben, how do I get my first deal, let alone land a big one that pays over $100,000? And why aren't my leads converting? I hear it all the time. People think that real estate investing is fast cash, easy money. But this deal, this one took 13 months of follow-up before it finally hit. And let me tell you, it was worth every freaking second, because this one deal, this one single lead paid me over six figures. And the best part is I made nearly $4,000 per follow-up text message when you break down the amount of money that we brought in versus the number of text messages that I sent. The point I'm trying to make is real estate investing is not about overnight success stories. It is a process. One that if you stay consistent will print money for you over and over again. But most people quit too soon. That's just the reality. They give up after a few calls, after a couple text messages, and that's exactly why they never close big deals or close deals, period. So in this video, I'm going to show you the process that I went through for sending text messages to this owner to lock in this deal. I'm going to show you the follow-up strategy that made the seller finally say yes after she already said no, and then how I turned this lead into a $101,796.97 payday. If you're serious about closing deals like this, you're going to want to take notes. So let's get into it. So what I want to do first is rewind this 13 months. This lead came in from a referral from a real estate agent. He said this seller was living in a pretty rough house. She was going through a rough time. She inherited the property, and she just needed to move and get to someplace safer for her and her family. So at first, she wasn't ready to sell. When I first contacted her, she wasn't ready to sell, but she told me, I might be in the future. So I knew there was motivation there. But instead of pushing too hard, I just stayed in touch. And we're going to go through the process, but 26 text messages later, she finally said yes. So this is the house. It was on a pretty large plot of land. And I'm going to show you some pictures and some videos of the inside of it here in a second, which is going to blow your mind that people can live like this. But when I first met the seller out at the house, we walked through it. We talked about her situation and the fact that, she just lost her mom, and her mom had passed this property down to her. I didn't realize how big of an emotional attachment this was until much, much later. So she knew she needed to get out of the house, but she just couldn't figure out where to start, from all the packing that needed to be done to navigating through the piles of hoarder crap that was in the house to even finding a new property. So what we did first was kind of explain the whole process to her. Listen, we can get you through this. We can purchase the house. You leave what you don't want. You take what you do want. We can even get you some movers. And we have a full team that can go out and find you a property that you can move into. She was going to walk away with a significant amount of cash. The reason that she needed to sell, though, was one, she needed to get out of there. It was rat infested. Number two, she had a tax auction that was coming up, and she needed to get rid of this property before that tax sale. So what we did was, in the beginning, when we first went out to the house, I gave her an offer. I offered her $167,000. And she had told me at that time that the neighbor had given her an offer for $200,000, but she still wasn't ready to sell. Even after talking her through everything that we can do for her, all of the things that we can help her with for essentially moving on and finding a new place to go, she still wasn't ready to sell. I told her that's okay. I get it. So what I did tell her, though, before I left was, listen, I'm going to follow up with you every other week just to let you know that I'm still here and I'm still willing to help. And that's exactly what I did. So most of the text messages that I would send her, I would get no response. I called her a couple times, would get no response. Sometimes she would send a response back days later that would say, not ready, or still not ready, or can't move yet. And I knew that this was going to be a tough one. But I continued for months and months and months until month 12 came around. And she messaged me and said, hey, I'd like to start looking at some other houses. Can you help with that? We're in. Bingo. Let's go. So I got her hooked up with a real estate agent who picked her up from her house, drove her around to look at a bunch of properties, and she finally found one that she liked. But she still wasn't ready to move on from the house. She didn't even know where to start with everything that needed to be done. When I say everything that needed to be done, this is what I mean. This is the house. This is before we started cleaning it out. This is day one of us cleaning out this property. This is where she would store her garbage, in the garage. And she had another detached 3-car garage that was full to the top of more garbage. So walking inside the house, clearly this is not a place where people should be living, right? I mean, this is bad. We went through these cabinets and there were nests of rats living in these cabinets. So when we started to clean it out, we uncovered so much that it was hard to imagine a human being living in this. So going through the photos of the house, it was sad. This was her bedroom, and she just couldn't tell herself to get rid of the property because it's the last thing that she had from her mom. This is her son's room. These cups were stacked to the ceiling. There's just garbage everywhere. It was bad. Really, really, really bad living conditions. Stuff all over the place. But the outside of the house was solid. Brick house, solid foundation, tons of room in the basement to go and expand and build and add more square footage in that basement. And then it was on a 4-acre lot with a pond. And we obviously had this 3-car detached garage that was just full of crap too. So when we started to have these conversations with her, we knew that this was going to be a ton of work. But when we finally got to the point where she was ready to go look at other houses, I knew she was this close to being ready to get out of that house. And all I had to do was kind of push her across the finish line because it was in her best interest to move out of this house. So this seller was just kicking the can down the road, and she did it for 13 months. But every 2 weeks, I would just send her a simple text. Hey, just staying in touch. I promise I'm not going anywhere. Hey, just letting you know, we still have all these resources to help. We can get people in there to help you pack and help you move whenever you're ready. Hey, Merry Christmas. All of the different things. It was just a simple text message every other week. I didn't overwhelm her. I didn't bombard her, but I made sure to stay in touch. So most people in this business stop at that first no or that first non-response. But the money is in the follow-up. I knew that this lead was gold, and I just had to be the last investor standing when she was finally ready to sell. Okay? So why did she wait so long? Why does any seller wait so long to eventually sell the house? I don't know. It could be for a litany of reasons. Not up to me to understand or to decide when somebody sells their house. It's up to me to be the person that's there when they're ready to sell their house. We had a deal just the other week that we lost because we stopped following up with that homeowner. We had it under contract, but the seller went and sold that property to somebody else who was there consistently, and it was one that slipped through the cracks. We had it under contract for $25,000. We would have spent $5,000 cleaning this thing out, and we would have been able to put it back on the market and sell it for $60,000, which is exactly what this other buyer did. So this buyer went in, bought it for $25,000, paid $5,000 to clean it out, sold it for $61,000, made nearly $30,000 on that deal. And we should have made that money had we followed up, but that's on us for not following up. So don't make that mistake, okay? The follow-up strategy is whatever you agree to with the homeowner, right? And we're not asking, hey, can I follow up with you every other week? No, we're telling them, listen, I'm going to follow up with you every other week so you don't forget about me. And you're going to remember my name, and you're going to know exactly who to call when you're ready to go. Because any other investor could have come in there, had a conversation with her, and tried to lock this up. But I had a relationship with her to where she said, no, I'm going to use you. So what happened with this deal? So we eventually got it under contract and closed it on month 13 of me following up. We closed it $175,000. We spent $20,000 cleaning it out. It took 17 40-yard dumpsters to clean that house out, which is more than double of any other house that we've ever cleaned out in our career of 400 plus houses, right? But after it was cleaned out, we marketed it to our buyers, which is, again, the importance of having buyers, having a list of buyers who are ready to go. We got it under contract the same day the cleaning crews finished. And that contract price was $315,000. So this is the settlement statement from that deal when we closed it on the sale side. We ended up finding a hard money lender that would help us purchase the home and give us some funds to be able to clean it out, which is exactly what we did. After purchasing the home, cleaning it out, and paying some closing costs, we were all in for $209,400.47 to our lender. And then we obviously had some closing costs on the sale side too. So to pay off our note and all the closing costs, we were in for $213,163.67. We sold it for $315,000, meaning we brought home $101,796.97. From the time that we closed with the seller to the time that we closed with that back-end buyer was 3 weeks. So we closed with the seller, immediately got our crews in to clean it out, got it under contract with the buyer, and closed all within the span of 3 weeks. Using none of our own money, we made over $100,000 on one single deal. So here's the breakdown, and the breakdown on the follow-up. We made over $101,000 on that deal. If we take that total amount and divide it by 13, which is the number of months that we worked on that deal, that'd be over $7,800 per month that we made on that deal. And the number of text messages. So I sent 2 text messages a month, meaning I sent 26 text messages over those 13 months. Each one of those text messages, if you break it down, take the $101,000 plus divided by 26, I made nearly $4,000 per text message. 39, 15, 26, nearly $4,000 per text message. So here's what you can take from this. Most of the time, deals don't die. People just stop following up. Investors stop reaching out. So if you're serious about real estate investing, you have to be obsessed with being in front of the seller when they're finally ready to sell. I don't care if it takes 3 months, 6 months, 13 months, 3 years. You stay in the game, you get the deal. Period. So drop a comment below if you've ever had a lead go cold but eventually turn into a deal. I'd love to hear about it. And then hit subscribe. I'm going to post videos on this channel weekly to give you more content, more breakdowns just like this. But for now, guys, get out there, dig up your leads, follow up, and lock in that next deal.